So, how does real, lasting change actually happen? It's almost never some big earth-shattering moment. Nope. Usually it starts with something tiny. And the story we're diving into today, it began in probably the most dramatic way you can imagine.
See, the basis for this whole way of thinking about habits, it didn't come out of some quiet, sterile lab or a stuffy university study. It was born from a moment of just pure, shocking violence.
And this quote, this is from the author, James Clear, talking about the exact moment his life completely changed. A classmate of his took a full swing with a baseball bat. It slipped out of his hands, and it hit James square in the face. He says he has absolutely no memory of the impact itself.
And the damage? It was just catastrophic. I mean, the impact literally sent his brain slamming into the inside of his skull, which caused immediate massive swelling. He actually stopped breathing on his own and had to be put into a medically induced coma.
Now, as you can imagine, the road back was incredibly slow. But years later, when he got to college, he started to try a new approach. He wasn't focused on these huge, life-altering changes. Instead, he just focused on small, consistent habits. Things like just keeping his room tidy, making sure he got good sleep, lifting weights. And these little routines, they started to stack on top of each other, creating some real momentum.
And this experience, this is what led him to the core idea of his entire philosophy. It wasn't about one giant, heroic effort. It was all about the simple but totally profound math behind these tiny little improvements.
And this brings up a question we all struggle with, right? How can these tiny, almost insignificant changes lead to these incredible results? We tend to just dismiss small improvements because we don't see the results right away. You go to the gym a few times, you don't look any different, so you quit. You save a tiny bit of money, you're not a millionaire overnight, so you stop. But thinking that way, it completely misses the magic of compounding.
Okay, so check out the math on this. If you get just 1% better each day for a whole year, you don't just end up 365% better. No, you end up 37 times better. It doesn't feel intuitive at all, but wow, is it powerful.
And of course, you've got to look at the flip side. Getting 1% worse every day, that doesn't just mean you slowly get a little worse. That same compounding effect works in reverse and drives you almost all the way down to zero. It's so clear. Good habits make time your best friend. Bad habits make it your worst enemy.
This idea he calls the plateau of latent potential perfectly explains why we get so frustrated. Think about it like an ice cube sitting in a cold room. Let's say it's 25 degrees. The temperature goes up to 26, 27, even 31, and it looks like nothing is happening at all. But then, bam, the moment it hits 32 degrees, it starts to melt. All that energy, all that work before, it wasn't wasted. It was just being stored up. And habits are exactly the same. You have to stick with it long enough to finally break through that plateau.
All right, so if compounding is the secret sauce, how do we actually use it? Well, this next idea really flips the script on one of the most common pieces of advice we hear all the time. You've got to set goals.
So goals, they're about the results you want to get, right? Like winning a championship. But systems are the processes that get you to those results. It's what your team does at practice every single day. And the big insight here is to fall in love with the process itself, not just the final prize. And look, focusing only on the goal, it has some pretty serious downsides. Think about it. Every single athlete at the Olympics wants to win the gold medal. The goal itself isn't what separates the winners from the losers. And what about after you hit the goal? What happens then? So often your motivation just collapses and you slide right back to where you started. It's the system that actually guarantees progress over the long haul.
This quote just nails it. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. It really gets to the heart of it all. It's not really about your ambition. It's about the quality of what you do day in and day out. Your system, that's what's going to determine where you end up.
Okay, so now we're going to go even deeper. This is the most powerful level of change. And this isn't just about what you do. It's about what you believe. It's all about your identity.
So, instead of starting with an outcome you want, like, say, I want to lose 40 pounds, you start with an identity you want to have. You start with, I am a healthy person. And then you just ask yourself, okay, what would a healthy person do in this situation?
The difference here seems subtle, but believe me, it is so powerful. That first person still sees themselves. They still identify as a smoker who's trying to quit. But the second person, they've already changed their identity. Their actions just follow that new belief. And that really brings us to the core idea here.
True, lasting behavior change is identity change.
Exactly. I love this example. The goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal isn't just to write a book, it's to become a writer. See, once you really adopt that identity, the work doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It's just you being you. It's you acting in a way that's aligned with who you believe you are.
You can think of it like this. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. So going to the gym, even if it's just for 5 minutes, is a vote for your identity as a fit person. Over time, all these little votes start to add up, and they build the evidence you need to really truly believe in that new identity.
So, we've talked about the why behind all this, and the what you need to focus on. So now let's get practical and talk about the how. It turns out our brains are literally hardwired to build habits using a really specific, predictable process. It's called the habit loop.
This is basically the neurological feedback loop that runs, well, pretty much our entire lives. Think about it. Your phone buzzes. That's the cue. You feel a desire to know who messaged you. That's the craving. You think up your phone. That's the response. And you satisfy that curiosity. That's the reward. And that loop, when you repeat it over and over and over again, is what forges an automatic habit in your brain.
And what's great is that this gives us a super practical way to kind of hack that loop. If you want to build a good habit, you just have to engineer each step. You make the cue obvious, you make the craving attractive, you make the response easy, and you make the reward satisfying. And if you want to break a bad habit, well, you just flip it. You make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Simple.
At the end of the day, it all comes back to this one powerful idea. Building better habits isn't really about life hacks or productivity tricks. It's about becoming someone. Habits are the channel you use to build your deepest beliefs about yourself. You literally become your habits. So the only question left is, who are you voting to become today?